Welcome! In this video we're going to take a quick look at Katna, a epic grade debuffer class Elune. Katna is a pretty good debuffer as she has multiple debuffs as well as some CC ability, and she gets up to be decently tanky. Once you get her transcended up to the max at +5, her HP does go up to a very decent amount, with her attack still being high, meaning that you can use her as an attack roll too for killing things. This makes her pretty decent, with her attack speed being at a pretty decent rate, about average compared to others. Looking at her skill kit is what makes her very nice and gives her again one of the more rare abilities of instant kill that we'll get into in a moment. Her fifth skill is a frontline only attack that deals magic damage, but the skill with the passive does work well as it can provide poisoning effects and other stun chances too. The skill does hit decently hard with magic damage, so it is pretty good to use, though it is a frontline only skill. Her special skill is a very good control skill that you can use on any enemy, including the back line. The skill does hit decently hard once you get it up to 6, and this is a physical damage skill compared to the magic damage of her first skill. This skill will, if attacking a poisoned enemy, give a 100% chance to apply a paralysis for 2 turns once maxed. However, at lower levels the paralysis effect is only a single turn, but the 100% chance is still there as long as the enemy is poisoned. This is good because this gives her the ability to paralyze targets for 2 turns, which she can be used in that respect as a replacement for such as a Chloe Van if you're doing daily battles in the boss battle modes. Because you can't perhaps bring a Chloe into them, you can instead bring a Katna and use her instead as a 2-turn paralysis as well as poison to poison the enemies to kill them faster. Looking at her ultimate skill is an AoE attack. This is a multi-hit attack that does a decent amount of damage. This one goes back to magic damage, unlike her special skill, which is physical. This one does a decent amount and is a 100% chance of poisoning the target. Once maxed out at 6, it does poison for 4 turns. As this is a nature effect, the tolerance stacks that the poison gives does not interfere with the physical effect of the paralyze from her special skill, allowing you to poison and then paralyze without having to worry about the extra tolerance stacks. This is an AoE, meaning you can AoE poison at a good chance. This skill also plays well with her passives, as it can give her a chance to stun because of this. Looking at her first passive, as soon as her turn begins, she will apply a nature effect, a poison, on a random target that isn't already poisoned, which means if she moves quickly in the battle and nobody is poisoned at the beginning, she will poison any of them randomly. But perhaps maybe 2 or 3 of them are poisoned, then those will not get the additional poison stack. Instead, any of them at a random chance will get a poison stack that doesn't already have it. This poison effect does last for 2 turns and is helpful. Her second passive, this one is another passive that gives her that good ability for CCing. This is only a 50% chance, but if she lands an attack as a crit, which is good because she multi-hits, then you have a 50% chance on a crit to apply a stun effect for 1 turn. This means that on her AoE attack that is a multi-hit, as long as you can crit on some of those attacks, or at least one of them, then she has a chance to stun as an AoE with her ultimate skill, as well as applying those poison effects, and then she can follow up that with a paralyze on her special skill in the next turn. Her third passive, this is something again that is rarer in the game, as it is an instant kill ability. This one does give her the instant kill ability once she attacks a target 7 times. So after she attacks 7 times after that, then she will instantly kill a target. However, if the target is immune to instant kill, which is the case in the boss battles, then instead they will just receive extra damage equal to 200% of the damage on every 7th attack. This means that they take additional damage from her, so building her on an attack roll for killing bosses is good, but you can also put her on a survivor roll and the damage just increases on those hits. That way you can bring her as a CC roll or as a damage roll depending on what you need for your team. Looking at her skill gems for the first skill recommended is for magic and crit rate. This has a low chance of applying an epidemic to the target for one turn, so isn't necessarily needed, as she does have a stun chance at 50% rate. If she does land a crit, going with an all crit build on the first skill makes her first skill have a 50% chance to crit, or gives her a 50% chance to stun if she crits with it, so makes the first skill more useful than having a 5% chance to epidemic. If, however, you want to use her as a DPS for the first skill, then you can go with the recommended blue. However, the orange for the crit rate for that stun on the passive is very useful. Her second skill, which does physical damage, recommended is the physical crit gems, but it is again only a 5% chance of reducing attack by 10% on the enemy. This is a very low chance and is hardly worth it. Again, for this one, going with the orange gems for the crit rate for the stun could be viable, but also going with the red gems would also be good too, as that the red will also give you more damage with this skill, and it does do decent damage. So you do have other options. Going with the recommended red, orange isn't bad, but there are better options, as you can also apply a crit instead of just a stun. If you don't land the paralyzed, perhaps you can land the stun. Looking at her ultimate skill though, her ultimate skill is kind of worth putting the skill gems on for the correct extra effect, as doing this will increase the damage dealt. If they have a poison effect, it'll increase the damage by 10%. As she has a passive that applies a poison effect at the beginning of her turn, then you will always have, or should have, depending on her accuracy, at least one target with poison, meaning that she will do extra damage by 10% with the skill, and it's an AoE. However, the other option for doing the skill gems on this skill would be to go with a full crit rate build, giving her that ability to crit, have a higher chance to crit, with a 50% chance to stun if she does crit. So if you're wanting to use her more in a CC type role, then you would want to go with a full crit build on this gems for the ultimate skill. But if you're wanting to use her for damage, then you can go with the recommended for this one, which is for the magic damage, the crit rate, and the speed. For her dimension slate, things that you would want to focus on for her is depending on how you plan to use her. If you want to use her for a damage dealer, then you would want to focus on attack and crit rate and crit power, as well as speed, but you're also going to need some accuracy on her just to help her land those debuffs. If you do want to use her more as a support role and a debuffer role, then you're going to want to give her some survivability, meaning more HP, PDEF, and MDEF, but also lots of accuracy, whatever you can get, as well as much crit rate as you can get without worrying so much about the attack power itself. The same thing goes whenever you're going for gear for her. You're going to want to focus on anything that can give her that accuracy or damage, depending on what you want. She can be useful even in the Chaos Tower hard mode because of her instant kill ability, but it is something that you're going to have to make sure that you're aware of, that she is quite squishy, and you're going to have to give her good survivability or a team that can keep her alive. Because of that instant kill ability, she can be useful in Chaos Tower, but she can also be useful in PvP because of it too, but it is more difficult in PvP, especially at the later stages, or higher levels, should I say, of the air battles, as a lot of people run immunity, so it's hard to CC them, and she is quite squishy, so a lot of things will do a lot of damage to her, especially the Artemils that people tend to run that are built on a very high physical defense build, which means they'll do a significant amount of damage to epic grade Elunes. She is, however, very useful, especially in early game, as her poison effects are quite powerful, as well as her debuffs and her CC ability. She is also useful if you need a replacement for a Chloe and a team for daily battles, as some bosses say that you cannot bring a DPS Elune for some of the boss fights on a daily. If that is the case and you have that on one of your daily quests as no DPS, and you still want to bring in, say, something to control, she is an option, as she does have stuns and she has a paralyze for 2 turns, allowing you to do that. That way you can bring in a debuffer instead and have some CC for your team that is still pretty consistent, much like Chloe's. Katna is a pretty decent overall Elune. She is not completely amazing, but she does have very good potential, and she does have good uses for certain things. Definitely worth keeping, especially if you do the daily battles and bosses, as she is very useful there, but she can also be useful if you're having trouble with certain stages of Chaos, where they just have too much HP and it's hard to kill, as she does provide an instant kill ability. It doesn't matter how much HP they have in those cases, she'll just kill it anyway, but you'll have to be careful with survivability with her. That's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thank you.